Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. So today I wanted to do a follow-up video about the Solostove Bonfire. I did a video when we first got started about this thing and how impressed I was and how much I used it. And so that's been about a year ago. I've had this for about 2 years. And a lot of people are wondering, do you still like it? I'm going to tell you, I love this thing. We take it camping with us everywhere we go. So whenever I built this new deck, we had a video about that a week or two ago. I'll link it in the description here, as well as, put a link here. But I really love this thing. And the issue is that it is virtually smoke free. It's easy to light because you have the walls that are around it. Hardly ever have a trouble lighting it. I do usually just use a pre-made fire starter with this thing, and so I'll put 1 or 2 of those down in there. I've been using the little cubes, and it recommends 2, so I just kind of stack 2 down on the bottom here, and then light them, and then put some kindling on top. Then you can usually, as long as it's dry and everything, just walk away, and you'll come back and you'll have a fire in just a couple of minutes. And then I'll let kindling, burn for just a little bit, and then I'll add a little bit bigger size log. And, it's just the general rules of fire making where you don't want to snuff it out. As long as your wood's dry and it's under the top of the bonfire here, I've never had any issues with smoke, okay? There are issues like when you're first started up, it's a little bit more smoky. And there's issues where when you put a log in here that's too long and it kind of sticks out the top, sometimes that can cause a little bit of smoke. But virtually this thing's smoke free. Now I have had some people, on Facebook say, well, I don't want to hear that it's smoke free because you wouldn't burn it inside the house. And well, obviously, at least without like a chimney or something. But yeah, that doesn't make sense. Obviously there is smoke there, and there's soot and carbon monoxide, but it's nothing that you will see most of the time with the naked eye. If you see it, it's usually just kind of hazy, and I know that it sounds like witchcraft, and it probably is, but it works. The first time that I got this, when I bought this thing, I'd never seen one used before. It's a lot of money. I was kind of worried that I was throwing my money away. But I thought I'll put some faith in this. I watched a couple of reviews just like this, and it seemed to work great, and so I thought I'll do it. So the issue is this thing, it doesn't weigh a whole lot. It's kind of a pain to get in and out of the carry case, which I did cover in my other video. I'll flip it upside down, usually in the fire pit that the campsite has, and then I take this and I go over the top of it. Oh, there seems to be a lot more room here. I think Solostove listened to their customers. I think they did. It's snagging a little bit there. And then I flip it over. I'm not going to put it in that little bit of ash though. Grab just the top, shake it down a little bit. That's way easier than putting the old cover on. Solostove, good job. It's a little bit big and awkward. Like, it's not big and awkward. It rides in our storage area of the camper. Before, when we had our travel trailer, I would just put it in the bag and set it in the floor behind the door. I'd set it on the couch because it's an old camper. But it's fine. I don't really think I would personally like the Ranger, which is an even smaller version of this, because this one can still be kind of an issue with having the correct length of firewood. Usually if you buy like the kiln dried firewood, it fits in there pretty good. If you're cutting firewood, I've noticed that generally you want to cut it a little bit shorter than what you would normally cut your firewood, just so that it sticks down in here very well. I think the diameter of this thing's 19 inches if I remember correctly. And so you just got to have something where when you set it down in there, it doesn't stick out the top, cause you issues. So this thing, like I say, is 2 years old. Now when it came, I did like the finish on it. Yeah, it was nice and shiny, silver. It's made out of stainless steel. It seems to be holding up very well. We'll show you some pictures of the inside and stuff. The only thing that I've noticed as far as any damage whatsoever besides the patina on here, which I kind of grown to like. I mean, it's kind of pretty in its own way. Maybe I'm just telling myself that because I knew that it was impossible to keep clean. But I do kind of like it. But the only thing that I've noticed damage-wise on this whole thing is there's a metal grate in the bottom. And that metal grate, just from, I mean, I've probably burned in this thing 300 or 400 times. That metal grate has some waves in it. But just think about how much heat this thing has and it holds, and it should be fine. Now, that being said, I like the portability of this, but I'm not one for really wanting to take it from back here on my deck to where I keep my camper every time that I want to go camping, which is about every other weekend. And so I did use this for an excuse to buy a new Solostove Bonfire. So that should tell you how much faith I have in this product, because I actually bought 2 of them. With burning it on the deck, I did get this thing here. It's called the Shield. Basically, it's to help keep all the embers from popping out all over the place. And I did also buy a stand, the Solostove stand, which is down underneath here. Initially, I remember reading that they said that you could just burn this on a deck. I guess there are some issues there with that. So they did make this stainless steel ring. You know, you could use something else that was fire resistant underneath it if you really wanted to. But I saw some people using infrared thermometer, and there is quite a difference between shooting it on the stove and shooting it on this steel. I mean, this still transfers a little bit of heat, but nowhere near the amount of heat that's on the stove. So, this is obviously our old fire pit. Basically, I have the new fire pit in what's called the Solostove shelter right behind me here. I'm going to pull that out so we can look at the differences of each one. I'll start by showing you some closer images of the older fire pit here, and then we'll take a look at the new one. One thing that I like about the Solostove is there's usually very little ash left in there. It has been a little bit rainy, so there's a little ash in there today. So I'm going to pour that out, and that way we can take some images for you and show you what this looks like after 2 years versus what a brand new one looks like. I will say that I've never really covered this. Granted, until recently, it's always been put up, like we've left it out all weekend when we go camping, and then it stays put up in the bag, in the camper or whatever. This has been sitting out for about 2 months now because I've just wanted to make this video before I actually burned a fire in the new Solostove. All right, so if you just get the Solostove, you get this ring that goes on the top that helps direct the fire and the heat. That comes with all of them. You don't get the shield or the stand like I showed you, and you don't get this cover. If you do have it set up where it's going to be somewhere pretty permanent, I would suggest covering it. If you don't use the cover like this, a lot of people use like a trash can that they just turn upside down and set over it. But obviously it's a good idea to keep it out of the weather a little bit, even though it is stainless steel. This Solostove shelter is a little bit dirty. I need to clean it up, but that's how long that it's been sitting here waiting on me to make this video. And that's how long I've waited till I've made a fire so that I can make this video for you guys. So I seem to like this shelter so far. It's a soft cover. When you pull it up, it just pops right off of there. It does have a little bit of support on the inside that holds a dome shape there. That way the water will just drain right off the top of it. Here's your ring, like I was talking about. And they all come with a canvas carry bag. I hadn't tried this one yet. I'm really hoping that it fits better than the old one. If it does, I'm gonna start carrying this one in the camper. We'll have to see. So for the large part, you can tell that this new stove is pretty much identical to the other one. The only changes that you can see with the naked eye is the bottom grate. I told you that the grate in my older one did have some waves in it. I believe the changes that I see are due to trying to combat that. So there's more of a rigidity to the bottom grate in the new one. It does have, you know, some metal supports that go all the way across and form like small triangles. It looks like little pieces of pizza down in here. And I'll show you a picture of that so you can understand what I'm trying to say. But basically the way that this works is it draws air in through these vent holes that are in the bottom. Okay, so you have these vent holes. Now the very bottom of this is solid, okay? So you don't have to worry about ash falling everywhere. You have these vent holes. You have a fire in here. And fire, of course, causes heat to rise, okay? Which then sucks air, fresh air into these vent holes, okay? The vent holes then let air come up through the grates here. That's why the grate is up off of the bottom, so air can come in through the bottom of the Solo stove, as well as air goes up in here because this is dual walled, and there's these vent holes around the top. Now where this thing is really pretty is whenever you have it good and hot, it's full of fire, you get what's called a secondary burn. So basically it's so hot that this air coming out of these tubes here, it forms another ring of fire around the top, and supposedly that burns off any you know, not complete burned embers or particles there, and that's one reason why it's so virtually smokeless. Like I say, it's not completely smokeless, but it's virtually smokeless. I cannot tell you how completely satisfied I am with this product. I'm not getting paid to sell it to you. You know, really guys, that's all there is to this thing. I want to show you some footage of some fires in there. I want to do the first burn in this bad boy tonight, and we'll see how it goes and show you what I think, okay?
do not forget to hit that subscribe button.